I finally played Yakuza 0, and no matter which way you slice it, this game has something for everyone, and it delivers with nearly every single bite. For my first Yakuza game, it's hard to imagine the series doing it much better than this one. So get ready for a cabaret slinging, money tossing episode of the series where we venture well beyond the rose tinted haze to deliver a modern and fresh take on the games that you love. No sugarcoating, no fluff, no nostalgia. The year is 2015. Netflix was beginning its stampede towards world domination with shows such as Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt and Making a Murderer having us all glued to our screens. Taylor Swift's Bad Blood was a pop version of an Avengers team-up, and the Avengers teamed up for Age of Ultron, catapulting the superhero genre to heights that, well, they'll probably never see again. And Kylie Jenner gave us the lip challenge. Who knew we'd have to get used to looking at puffy Kardashian lips like this for the next decade? 2015 also was the rise of the 8th generation consoles, with the PS4 and Xbox One hitting their stride. Their enhanced graphics and processing power opened doors to more sophisticated and visually stunning games, with Nintendo's Wii U struggling to keep pace with its competitors. Mobile gaming classics such as Clash of the Clans and Candy Crush Saga were integral in the industry's growth to well over $90 billion. And platforms like Steam were allowing indie developers to get their games out to a much broader audience. Titles such as Undertale and Rocket League catapulted the indie development swing to new heights. But the big boys were still swinging their weight around too, with games such as The Witcher 3, Fallout 4, and Metal Gear Solid 5 rattling the industry. Sega had found itself in a unique situation since the early 2000s when they stopped making consoles. The company had seen a massive shift back towards profitability, and the Yakuza series was a big reason for that. On August 24th, 2014, Sega held a special event for the series and showed a trailer for the game. 30 popular adult video idols from Japan were announced to make a cameo and make up the hostesses in the Cabaret Club. Now, I know that doesn't mean shit to us Americans really, but I mean, I was a little taken aback when I first saw this softcore video on my TV. Way too hot for YouTube. Anyway, the game's development was completed shortly thereafter and released on March 12, 2015 in Japan on PS3, and in the West nearly 2 whole years later as a remastered version on PS4 on January 24th, 2017. The game was a massive hit, with the sales well over 2 million copies, making it the best-selling game in the franchise thus far, at least according to the numbers that we have. Critics and fans alike adored the game with an 85 and 8.6 critic and user score, respectively. Metacritic also rated it as the 24th best game on PS4 in 2017. I mean, considering hard hitters like Nier Automata, Sonic Mania, and Persona 5 released that year, it's a hell of a position. And seriously, big props to Toshihiro Nagoshi, the genius behind the Yakuza series. With the amazing team at Ryu Ga Gotoku Studio, he took us all the way back to the 1980s Japan to explore the wild days of Kiryu and Majima. The process wasn't all sunshine and elbows, however. Scott Strickhardt and his team at Atlas USA had a hell of a time localizing this game, as Yakuza 0 has a massive 1.8 million Japanese characters, which is almost double even your standard JRPG. They even had to write a whopping 34 pages of Mahjong explanation because us folks over the water had no clue how to play that shit, and frankly, I still don't, but you know, that's dedication. And that 0 means exactly what you think. This is the origin of 2 of the series' most well-known characters, Kazuma Kiryu and Goro Majima. This story, y'all, this story is nuts. With so many twists and turns, you could be forgiven for being absolutely thrown, slack-jawed, and
amazed.
So let's go ahead and get into it. Spoiler warning for this section, because if you plan on playing the game, you should probably do so blindly. I mean, not like Makoto blind, just, you know, without knowledge. You guys know what I mean. But yeah, we're about to explore the neon-lit streets of 1980s Japan where crime, drama, and a fair bit of karaoke await us. On one side of the coin, we've got Kazuma Kiryu, a young and ambitious Yakuza member based in Tokyo's entertainment district, Kamurocho. He's all honor and loyalty until he finds himself framed for a murder that he didn't commit. The catch? The crime scene is a seemingly unimportant plot of land known as the Empty Lot. Sounds like it's not a big deal, right? Well, wrong. This tiny parcel of land turns out to be a linchpin in a massive real estate development scheme that has the entire criminal underworld buzzing. Kiryu doesn't want to take the fall, so he leaves his Yakuza family, the Dojima family, to clear his name. His investigation leads him through a whirlwind of twists and turns. I mean, we're talking betrayals, surprise alliances, and some killer street fights. He even has to face off against members of his former clan, all while getting pulled into this larger struggle for power around the Empty Lot. Plus, his boy Nishiki and childhood friend Yumi get dragged into this mess. It's just like non-stop for this guy. Switch gears and now we're in Sotenbori, the city of nightlife and street food where Goro Majima is making a living running the Grand, a high-end cabaret club. Sort of a timeout from the Yakuza life for him. Majima was kicked out of his Yakuza clan on some collusion shit. Now the clan gives him a way back. He has to simply assassinate a woman. Sounds straightforward enough, right? Except when he finds out she's a defenseless blind woman named Makoto Makamura, it gets a little difficult for our man Majima. Being the complicated guy that he is, he decides to protect her instead, especially after learning about her tragic past and her unexpected connection to the Empty Lot. As Majima digs deeper, he realizes Makoto is being hunted by several Yakuza factions. Everyone from shady businessmen to full-on assassins are after her. Majima decides to go against his orders and puts everything on the line to keep her safe. Alright, so how do these two stories converge? Well, get ready for the big reveal. Kiryu and Majima discover that Makoto is the legal owner of the Empty Lot. In the world of Yakuza 0, it's like a golden ticket. It's at the heart of Kamurocho's redevelopment project, and whoever controls it has major leverage over the city's future. Between Yakuza families, criminal organizations, and power-hungry businessmen, this little plot becomes the battleground. Makoto was gifted it by her grandpa in his will and wasn't even around to claim it. She had no idea, so yeah, talk about a target on your back. Kiryu and Majima's paths finally cross and they team up for a climactic showdown that had me really feeling some type of way. In the end, our heroes not only protect Makoto, but also expose the nasty corruption and dark secrets behind the scenes. Empty Lot is secured, and the two manage to come out alive, but forever changed by their experiences. Realizing they are both two sides of the same coin, they fight against corruption, treachery, and the darker sides of mankind. Now this story is truly magical. I know the side quests, minigames, and other features of Yakuza are what it is often lauded for, but I was so into the plot that I literally couldn't stop just doing the missions. The acting is incredible from start to finish, and considering this is nearly a 10-year-old game at this point, man, the scene direction and hard-hitting dynamic camera angles of nearly every cutscene are just phenomenal. I was invested in the numerous twists and turns in a way that I really didn't expect. As the reputation of this game can be a bit cheeky, silly fun, that really is the dichotomy of Yakuza. You can go from a super serious moment where a character sacrifices themselves to protect others, and then jump right into a side mission where you have to teach a band full of squares how to be fake punks to fool their fans. Or maybe you do some disco dancing, which I guess feels like a natural segue into the gameplay in Yakuza 0. Just as meaty as a story, actually, maybe even more so. There is so much shit to do in this game. I feel like the Yakuza series has a certain notoriety as the Japanese GTA, and in some ways, this is true. There's combat, traversal, lifestyle mechanics, mini games out the wazoo. It's a bit of an embarrassment of riches when it comes to the number of ways that you can enjoy Yakuza 0. The first thing you'll come to grips with is the combat. You're mainly going to be engaged in hand-to-hand combat, with a few exceptions. using various fighting styles. Both Kiryu and Majima have their own set of unique fighting styles that can be switched on the fly during combat. Kiryu has styles like Brawler, which is a well-balanced one, and Beast, which is more powerful but much slower. Majima has his own fighting styles like Thug and Breaker, which incorporate dirty fighting and dance moves, respectively. You can pick up objects in the environment and use them as weapons too. Heat comes into play, which builds up as you dish out punishment, allowing for heat actions. These can be based on a few different factors, such as distance from the opponent, any weapons you currently have in your hand or nearby you, etc. They're bombastic as shit, and I loved watching them each time, especially, smashing some dude in his nuts with a bicycle. Combat almost reminds me of those old Ukes SmackDown games in the weight and the movement. I was getting my ass whooped at first, but as I got better at the game and learned new moves and extended my health, you really can find a groove and it's almost always fun. It can get a bit tiring with the random battles on the street, but you can run away from most encounters or deal with it by, just tossing some cash into the air for people to chase after. Now, each of the protagonists have their own separate upgrade systems tied to their specific fighting styles. You earn money from fights, side quests, and mini games. This money is literally invested into yourself. You can also learn new skills and unlock further upgrade paths by meeting masters throughout the game world. It's not just a level up to get stronger system. You actually choose specific skills or enhancements to invest in. Skills can range from new combat moves to quality of life improvements like running for longer distances without getting tired, which was one of my favorites. Beyond the combat is where the game gets real juicy. There are so many mini games in this game. You could literally play side content in this for an easy 100 hours or more and still have stuff to do. Dance-offs, karaoke, darts, numerous Sega classics, pool, shogi, not to mention entire cabaret management and real estate management sims within the game. You can imagine a single chapter could last you dozens of hours if you get sidetracked with all this stuff. I did my share of them, but was so intrigued and enthralled by the story that I sort of beelined my initial playthrough. I will in fact go back and continue through the Cabaret. Especially. I'm not usually too big on these types of mini games, but finding hostesses and doing their makeup was surprisingly fun. And that's a good chance to talk about the open world aspects. This is what usually turns me off on mini games, as I prefer a little bit more of a direct style of game. But this feels more like Ghost of Tsushima in that it's a pretty compact area. There's lots to do in almost every corner of the world. However, the design language of the era shows its ugly head at times. You'll find streets that lead to nowhere without any boundary even stopping you. Lots of places you can't walk into, and sometimes I found the entrances to the places you could go into weren't always super clear. But the cities felt alive, with lots of characters and riffraff moving around. No cars though, which feels like a weird omission. Speaking of the riffraff, they are the ones that hand you the side quests. Well, they call them SUBSTORIES. They're often quirky, humorous, sometimes downright bizarre. Whether it's helping a dominatrix learn to berate her clients properly or helping a street performer go to the bathroom, you're never quite sure what you're going to get. But the rewards can be worth it, from new fighting techniques to special items, and many of them are surprisingly poignant, and often just as well acted and written as the main content. One that comes to mind earlier on is meeting with a girl who you pretend is your girlfriend to get her dad off her back. The conversation between the father and Goro is actually really touching. All in all, the gameplay of Yakuza 0 is highly addictive and well done from start to finish. Outside of a few little quibbles with the world design and some of the difficulty curve at first, I would imagine most people would enjoy the loop on offer here, as there truly is something for everybody. Now, the graphics in Yakuza 0 are surprisingly solid, considering it is getting a bit long in the tooth. The neon-lit streets of Kamurocho and Sotenbori are a sight to behold. The game captures the vibe of the 80s in Japan wonderfully, from the advertisements to the architecture. The main characters are all incredibly well detailed, showcasing emotions effectively during cutscenes. And these are some of the very best cutscenes I've ever seen, truly, which leaves you on the edge of your seat constantly. Activities like singing in karaoke or dancing in the disco showcase some pretty smooth animations that add to the fun and really draw you into the vibe of the whole thing. Everything isn't incredible though. By the time Yakuza 0 hit the Western market, the game's engine was showing its age. Textures, especially in less important areas or on non-essential NPCs, can be a bit dated. And while the aforementioned cutscenes are incredible, the game transitions between gameplay and cutscenes can feel abrupt at times, pulling you out of the immersion. And the streets feel alive, but you might start to notice repeating NPC models or animations, which can detract from the otherwise lively atmosphere. Though, for a game that originated on the PS3, this game punches well above its weight in most respects. Now, the audio in this game is something special with a hell of a package across the board. The Japanese voice acting is phenomenal. The performances of the lead characters, especially Kiryu and Majima, are emotional and powerful, making the dramatic scenes hit so hard, and I mean harder than my man Nishitani when he thinks about a good scrap. That dude is off his fucking rocker. Ambient sounds in this game are also remarkable. Walking through the streets of these cities, you'll hear the chatter of the crowd, cars passing by, and the distant hum of neon signs. It makes the game world feel alive and bustling, and you are rarely aware you're not in a real, breathing city. But what stands head and shoulders above its peers is the soundtrack of this game.
Holy shit, y'all.
Now, whether you're roaming the streets or engaging in a high-stakes battle, the soundtrack always fits the mood. And I love the little touches in this game, like how the combat themes change as you switch between styles. The best compliment I can give to this soundtrack is that it reminds me a lot of Persona 5's. Composed and performed by primary composer and musician Hidenori Shoji, a longtime Sega collaborator since his work on Virtua Fighter 3 back in 1996. There are very few pieces of music in this game that don't move you. Whether it's hard rock grooves driven by rhythm guitars for the boss battles, or in-the-cut electric pianos with a smooth bass line and funk-inspired drums, you bet your ass I'm gonna be looking for a copy of this vinyl sooner or later. Tracks like Money Make Money just cannot be denied. I will groove my ass around the house to that. Smooth as shit. Not to mention the disco and karaoke tracks are so catchy and memorable. The sound package is seriously just as good as any in the modern era, and certainly better than most of its own. So, with all that said, all the pluses, minuses, and, well, zeros of Yakuza 0 laid out on the card table, do I think that this game is still worth playing today? Now, without a doubt, this game is worth playing. And if you're new to the series like me, this might be the best place to start. From all accounts, this is at least in the top 2 or 3 of the Yakuza series and tells the origin story of a couple of the most important characters in the entire franchise. I can't imagine that I will not play any more of the Yakuza / Like a Dragon series after this, because it was just so damn fun. If you enjoy a game that can lay on some of the most dramatic moments you could ever imagine 1 second, and have you breakdancing on a disco floor the very next, shit, this game is for you. And I mean, isn't that pretty much all of us? I'll gladly return to whatever era of Japan these stories ask of me. The origin story of Yakuza 0 is truly magic, and I think you should give it a go as well. Thanks for watching. Click here on the screen for another incredible, nostalgia-free trip down memory lane. And don't forget to check out my Discord and all social media under @TheGamersician. I appreciate y'all. Peace.